How much income do you need in Japan to be considered upper, middle, or lower class? There's a general perception that there's a very large middle class and a very small upper and lower class. Actually, the middle class has been shrinking. 30 years ago, 90% of Japanese considered themselves middle class. Nowadays, it's closer to 50%. Quite a drop. So where do you stand with your current income? After watching today's video, you will know for sure. So let's dive into the numbers and figure it out. The middle class is shrinking, as I was mentioning, because it is being squeezed left and right because of taxes and inflation. Japan used to be called the 100 million middle class society, and it all changed after the 1990s bubble burst and has been falling throughout the last decades. Being a full-time employee was considered a mark of the middle class, but the salaries of full-time employees have been decreasing regularly. Actually, the reduction in disposable income is very noticeable here, losing 1.1 million yen a year in 30 years, which is about $7,000. And the lifetime earning potential was reduced as well quite dramatically. In Japan, the middle class has an income between 3 to 20 million yen, which is between $19,000 to $129,000, compared to the US, that is comprised between $52,000 to $150,000. The median income in Japan is at 3.9 million yen, which is $25,000, so the middle class is very firmly anchored around it. This tells us as well that the middle class is not just one big monolith and not completely uniform. They actually can be divided into several subclasses. First, we have the lower middle class, making between 3 and 5 million yen, which is between $19,000 to $32,000, and they represent 32% of the total. The middle class itself earns between 5 and 8 million yen, which is between 32,000 and 52,000, and they represent about 21%. Then we have the upper middle class, makes between 8 and 20 million yen a year, which is between $50,000 and $129,000. It is a very wide range, if you ask me, and they represent only 8.7% of the total. However, the catch is the cost of living and location greatly impacts how far that income can take you. So for example, if you are living on 5 million yen, which is $32,000 in rural Miyagi Prefecture, which is 2 hours or 2.5 hours north of Tokyo, that gives you a lot of flexibility and a lot more than if you were living in Tokyo, Yokohama, and Osaka, where the cost of living is much higher. If that video has been interesting for you so far, please give it a like. That would make it available to many more people, and that would help us a lot. Thank you very much. Let's continue. Understanding the concept of lower class household involves considering several factors. For instance, the same income doesn't go as far for a 3-person household or a 2-person household. Then age and location also have to be taken into account. In 2021, 38% of Japanese households fell into that category, making less than 3 million yen a year, which is about $19,000. They tend to be younger, work in part-time or low-earning job, what in Japan we call baito or parto, and that tends to be in the service industry or construction industry. Now, lower income earners often face limitations for economic progress compared to upper or middle class counterparts. They tend to have less work stability, low work-related benefits, and difficulties to progress in their career, obviously because they are not full-time employees. However, beyond the numbers, there is a deeper narrative that deserves our attention. For example, if we look at the strategies employed by different socioeconomic groups to build financial security, there are some patterns that are emerging. If you are a lower class household, it means that you can barely make ends meet. So you cannot put money on the side for emergencies, for your emergency fund, for education, or towards a big purchase like a house or towards retirement. Middle class households often rely on the growth of their own equity to enhance their net worth, and they put money on the side for emergencies, to avoid big troubles, and maybe a little bit towards retirement. While the upper class family, they tend to leverage their financial assets and their investment to build and preserve their wealth. And if you're interested in how the richest Japanese think about their money and their investment, I suggest watching this video that you see now on screen, and you're gonna have a link down below. But please wait until you finish watching this one first. Now, on the difficult subject of poverty. As the wealth gap continues to widen, upward mobility becomes increasingly limited for individuals with lower income. But what exactly is poverty? One measure is what is called poverty line. It's used to determine the income threshold below which individuals or families are considered to be living in poverty. It takes into account income levels, family size, to establish the minimum income needed to meet basic needs. As of 2023 in the US, the poverty line stands at $14,000 for individual and about $30,000 for a family of 4. For Japan, the measure is a little bit different. It is 2/3 of the median income, or 2.6 million yen, about $16,000 per household. Japan has one of the highest level of poverty in the OECD countries, even for the fourth economy in the world, and it disproportionately affects women and children. And according to some government estimates, 16% of children in Japan are affected by poverty. It's just gut-wrenching. And Japan even has what is called working poor, people that are actually working but not making enough money to meet their basic needs. At one point, 8% of people in Japan were falling in that category. These workers also tend to be homeless and reside in areas generally away from the public eye, with well-known homeless villages existing such as Hakenmura. And that literally means the village of the laborers. It's been studied by someone called Toru Shinoda, and I will link to details down below if you want to know more. Breaking the cycle of poverty requires comprehensive efforts and equal access to resources, opportunities. Some policies and initiatives aim at promoting economic and social mobilities, and this is essential to address this issue. The Japanese government is more and more aware of it and is trying to address it, but it has unfortunately not brought any results so far. It is a difficult situation and it will take time to solve. The upper class in Japan traditionally was not too obvious and quite limited because of traditional behavior, way of thinking, and also crushing taxes on inheritance. We're talking about upward of 55%. That was making sure and still make sure that wealth was not passed down generation to generation without doing too much. But how many people are we talking about? You might be wondering, right? Only 0.6% of income earners are making that kind of money. We're really talking about the lucky few, the real 1%. And they're more likely to be business owner or high-level executive. And they invest their money to grow their wealth over time. Looking at these figures, we obviously need to talk about the wealth gap in Japan. While the Great Recession affected many, the upper class managed to thrive, widening the wealth gap. Between 2005 and 2025, the number of upper class households increased by 71%. To be part of the upper income class in Japan, one needs to earn above 20 million yen or above $129,000. By comparison, in America, it would be $150,000. However, location and cost of living play a crucial role in the challenges faced by families falling just below this threshold. Cities, for instance, offer high-paying jobs, but at the same time, higher cost of living. And this factor contributes to the challenges faced by middle-class and upper-middle-class families, especially if their income falls just below what is required for the standard cost of living and the occasional expenses in Japan in cities. Social expectations also come into play, as people are often judged by the car they drive, the clothes they wear, the social activities they have, and whether they participate in all the festivities or they offer the proper gift depending on the seasons, especially here in Japan. At the end of the day, defining the wealth gap in Japan requires considering a lot of complex issues, and there is no one-size-fits-all answer. We often encounter people or families putting on a show, projecting an image of wealth. But here is the truth. Material possession and an extravagant lifestyle do not equal to wealth. Behind the scene, many of those people are drowning into debt. That's where the concept of net worth comes into play. It's actually a better indicator of someone's current and future wealth than net income. Net worth encompasses an individual or a family overall assets, what they own, meaning their savings, their investment, their real estate or their valuable possessions, minus their liabilities, their mortgage, and all of their debt. It's a very good way to measure someone's current wealth and their ability to sustain that wealth in the future. So, what do you think about income disparities in Japan? Do you think the estimated salaries are realistic, or do you have a different idea of what it means to be rich in Japan? Please let me know in the comments down below. If you like this video or learned something, please give it a like and do not hesitate to subscribe for more content to come. And if you want to know more about personal finance and Japan, please check these videos as well. Thank you again for watching, and until next time, goodbye!